All right, guys, it's week 6 in the Big Brother house.
Yes, it is, everybody. And back with us as usual is our guest host, Ashley. How you doing, Ashley?
I'm doing all right, Billy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Josh. And thanks for letting me drink out of a tiki glass this time.
Yeah, you're pretty special.
Not my choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously. It's very
We
exclusive.
dig our tiki glasses
It
around
is
here.
exclusive. It's very exclusive.
All right,
Let me take my sip.
yeah, you do that. Go right ahead. It just tastes better out of the tiki glass, doesn't
They
it?
probably heard me sip. Sorry about
No,
that.
that's
Yeah.
all right. They understand how
Okay.
good something tastes out of tiki glass. Maybe they
All right.
don't. Maybe they don't have tiki glasses. I mean, if they don't, maybe they should get them.
All right, week 6 starts off with the HOH competition.
Yeah, man. And already some wheeling and dealing trying to go down with it too, right? Before it even kicks off.
Yeah. Well, some lines were drawn in this competition. Within the cookout, Kyland kept going after, Aja and Big D.
All right, Kyland, pick the next two players to face off.
Oz and Big D.
Good luck, guys. I find it interesting that Kylan is picking me and Big D. There's a lot of options to choose from, and at this point, the only remaining people are people within the cookout. I'm just gonna ignore it, hopefully win this round, and find a way to get this HOH.
So, she wasn't a big fan of that.
No, she was not a big fan of that at all. And then, of course, then what she really wasn't a big fan about was this. She was like, hey, Kyle, Kylan, good Lord, what's his name?
Kylan.
Kylan.
Kai. Yeah.
She said, throw it to me.
I'm going to call him Kyla.
Yeah, well, I think
Kylan.
Brittany kind of attacked him first, right? So.
Yeah. Well, but then Aja was like, well, hey, Kylan, do me this solid and throw it to me. He's like, yeah, I got you. And then, man, oops, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, players, here's your next song.
Unlucky,
Sorry.
unlucky 13.
Oh, he got it. He got wild
She's like,
I accidentally buzzed that
I really
in.
want this one. He's like, okay.
Okay.
Take it, yours.
Bam. It's mine.
Yeah, he couldn't have hit that button any faster on that
Oh,
one.
yeah, no, I mean, that was probably the fastest
I
one
was
he hit.
surprised he even got it right. Like,
Do you think he just got overexcited because he knew the song and it was kind of like a
No,
reaction?
I don't think he wanted Aja to have it.
No, I don't either.
I think that was accidental. I don't think he'd do that.
I don't think he wanted Aja to have it.
Now, I will say after that, Tiffany is kind of like, I want this too. And he's like, okay, cool. Just
Right,
don't
yeah.
let me look dumb up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Don't let me look
And
dumb.
he tried. He did try to throw it to Tiffany.
He's like, do. Which song is it? Hurry up, girl.
Right, and Tiffany got it wrong.
She's like, okay.
She's like-
and he's giving her all the time to buzz in, and finally she buzzes in, and it's wrong.
wrong answer.
I'm not totally sure if I'm right, but I pick wildcard comp. I've got a 1 in 3 chance of being HOH right now. I am so hoping that I guessed right.
Tiffany, you were first to ring in with wild card, but that's incorrect.
I mean, he could have just quickly chose the wrong one
He
to
could
guarantee,
have.
but I wouldn't do that either. I'm like, no, you got to earn this a little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. A little bit.
Right,
Do
right.
something towards
Well,
us.
the other
yeah.
thing that kind of leads you to believe that, he backstabbed Aja on purpose there was he didn't apologize later. He was kind of explaining to her, hey, look,
Yeah.
this is how I'm playing this game here, and, I just thought this was the right way to do it, and he really didn't have a good explanation for
Well,
it.
that was an interesting
why he took it from
conversation,
her.
though, because she
Yeah.
did the typical woman thing, like you're
Oh.
not, you're
Right.
not listening.
Oh.
You're not listening.
I'm not being
to me.
heard here.
Oh, now I know there's a lot of editing that goes on in there, but she did the typical woman thing, which is no.
You
You
know
did
what
the
I'm talking
typical
about.
guy thing. Whatever. We're not going to go there. But she said, I don't feel like I'm being heard. And he said, all right, let's hit the reset button and start this conversation over again. So that way we can, tone it down and not have like this tension between us.
animosity going
So
on
they
here.
go sit down on the couch. And what was shown to us through editing was all him talking. She still never got to say what she said. Now, maybe she did, maybe she didn't. But according to the diary room, she didn't really get to say what she said. Or she didn't feel heard anyway.
What she said, what she said, she didn't get her feelings across. I'm trying to get my feelings across here.
Well, he did hear.
So-
She's like, I wanted to win. What's up with that? And he told her. I mean,
yeah.
Why did you keep on picking me?
Because I don't know of any other allies that Brittany has.
Okay.
And he didn't apologize for it. And at the end of the day, did he really need to? I don't think he needed to.
No,
Yeah, I
I
don't
mean,
think so either.
anyone who asks for a competition to be thrown their way and the other person doesn't do it, I don't feel like there needs to be an apology there or an explanation.
Right. Well,
it's an individual game.
Well, the fact that he told her, yes, I will do it, and then
Yeah, that
and
was
he
kinda
didn't-
messed up.
Right, exactly.
he should have just been like, well, and then left it at that.
Right, exactly.
The moment, Like, I wanted to be kind. I thought about doing it.
Now, if you want to win, do
couldn't.
something. Like, don't just be handed, especially Aja. Come on. What have you been doing lately?
Yeah, no,
Well,
she
and
has been
Tiffany
nuts.
getting really upset. What was funny about Tiffany was that she asked him to throw it to her, and he tried, and then she lost anyway. And then she was sat there and said the one person she didn't want to get it was Kyland.
Right, exactly.
Just because of Claire, though.
No, because
Sarah
of
Beth.
No,
well,
Sarah
Sarah
Beth.
Beth, yeah. Well, also because of Claire, because
Yeah.
she knew that he wasn't going to put Sarah Beth up, but he would put up Claire. So.
Right, exactly. Yeah,
You
so
know, that
he,
was kind of worst case for her, but it's kind of weird to see this whole cookout dynamic play out within the competitions and in the diary room with their other person that they've been assigned as their buddies outside of the cookout, because they're very protective of their buddies, but at the same point in time, it seems like they sacrifice their game to protect the cookout.
That ain't no buddy. Buddies look
Well-
out for each other. These are like pets.
Right, yeah. When the funny thing is too is like they don't want to sacrifice their own pet, but they're like, let me sacrifice your pet.
Exactly. And then they get mad at each other when they won't do that.
Which is fine, though, because if you're the HOH, you're the one who gets to make the decision, I think. It's like, yeah, I know you care
that's true.
slightly
I
for
don't
this
think
person, but that
anyone-
one's got to go.
Yeah.
No, none of them expected him to do anything to Sarah Beth.
Right.
I think they all
Well-
kind of knew that was off limits.
Right.
there.
When in this case, so they each got their own little pet, but I mean, in reality, Brittany was like two people's pets, right? In the cookout, Aja and Big D. And they still threw her under the bus.
Aja and Big D to me kind of stand out, and this is why I think they're going to be one of the first two to go in the cookout if they're not careful, and unless they start taking shots at the cookout before it's just down to them, because they've always kind of stood alone. It's like the cookout, but then they're kind of protective of, and everyone's just taken the Jokers from the very beginning as like a team of.
They are a joke.
They are.
Yeah.
They don't win anything.
Everyone treats
Right.
them that
Perfect
way,
name.
and they act that way.
I mean,
so
Brittany, I think is the only one in that group that won anything. So,
yeah, but America liked her.
right, they did like her.
Yeah,
But they like Big D too. So he got 100 as well.
yeah.
So.
And who was the other one?
Yeah, I don't know. You guys might be skipping ahead a little bit here, but
But yeah, we'll get to that.
I don't like that, huh?
We'll get to that. But
Anyway.
But yeah, no, and at what point is the selfishness in the cookout finally gonna come to a head, right? When Tiffany's being selfish with Claire, Kyland's being selfish with Sarah Beth, of course you had Aja and Big D being selfish with Brittany. So at what point is this gonna finally just come to a head and just cause a lot of drama in the cookout, or is it?
I was thinking it might come sooner because they obviously based this group off race, which I think is fine from the beginning because that's a commonality that they all had, and you had the numbers, so okay, let's do this. But I thought as their bonds and stuff grew with other people, that would overpower that
Right.
connection. But apparently,
Well, and
not
when
so
you're
much.
really analyzing it, because they're working so hard to keep the cookout secret from the rest of the house, they're not bonding with each other.
right.
So they're not forming these final twos with each other or bonding with each other. So they actually seem to secretly not want to play with each other. I mean, there may be one or two that want to play together, but for the most part, I think, like Tiffany and Hannah, they're really close.
Yeah.
And Big D and Aja are really close, but
Yeah, I don't think we're not going to see those bonds. I don't think until it comes down to if the
too
cookout's the
late
last
at
one's
that
left.
point.
When the last 6 are left, then they're going to start really ganging up and saying, "All right, you and me."
Yeah,
But-
and I don't know. I think it was a good plan at the beginning, but they should have formed their bonds with each other, even if it was secret in some way. Like I said, there was a season where, an older woman and a young kid like bonded, and you never saw them together. No one ever saw them together, but they had a final two from the beginning, and it was just like they had these little chess moments that they would play together or something.
Well,
like
I
that.
think Aja and Derek F need to come to realization they're on the bottom in this, and there's
Right.
still enough people in this game where if they turn, they could form another group to get rid of some of these cookout people.
Yep.
But it doesn't
exactly.
seem like they're even thinking in that direction,
No,
at least
well-
for much, especially
well,
those two.
No, and this next coming up week, we'll get to that, is definitely going to be like the prime opportunity for that, right? But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But
Yeah, I wonder if Kyland's going to be smart with like Sarah Beth and be like, you know what? She's really better for my game than some of these other people, especially as more people start dwindling away.
yeah, possibly.
And, yeah. I was going to say something else, but I'll wait till.
Well, and
we get to that point.
ideally, if you're a member of the cookout, you don't want to be sitting next to a member of the cookout at the end.
Right, exactly.
Because the majority, I mean, at this point in time,
It's true.
they have achieved their goal of getting all members of the cookout into the jury.
We turn on
So-
them, though. They might remember that in the jury. I don't know.
Yeah, but you got to be slick about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get
That's why
you get the non-Cookout members to do the dirty work for
and
you.
then you kind of go, hey, I'd nominate these two, like
Right.
Xavier and Tiffany, for example,
Right.
if you're Kyland or Derek.
Because now, if I'm sitting up, if I've got Cookout members the majority of the jury is going to be Cookout members. That's just how it is, because that's how far they've gotten so far.
I will say that is
I want to be sitting next to, if I'm in the Cookout, I want to be sitting next to somebody else, because they've sworn that they're going to get a Cookout member.
I would say that's what's cool about them, is that they really do look out for each other when there is talk about someone on, and that's what makes this group really work, because they could just be like, hey, I'm safe, whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, even if they don't like the other person.
Yeah, they still like, all right, it's Cookout, and we're together. Yeah,
they're like, oh, they're throwing a Cookout name. Let's.
Claire, hold up. I'm asking you about targets, and now you're naming Cookout members. I'm not sure how long we can actually keep you around now. I know we go back to our days as queens, but if you're gonna target the Cookout, I may have to take you out sooner rather than later.
All right, so
throw this off.
Right, so Kyland's head of household, and he finally, he makes his decision.
Who's he nominating?
Right, so he nominates Claire and Big D. Well, first he goes to Big D and says, hey man, what do you think about being? Well, he tells Big D, look, I'm thinking about throwing up one of your teammates, and Big D's like, you know what, dude? Nah, just use me as a pawn.
He's probably like, is it going to be Brittany?
Right, exactly. So Big D's like,
well, I mean, I like that Kyland said he was going to go to Aja and give her the choice, because Aja had said it before.
They would rather be her than
there
Brittany.
was at one point in time, she said, if you're going to put up a pawn, do me. I don't want to do Brittany. I don't want to do that to
I really
her.
don't understand this fascination with Brittany
Protecting
that those two
Brittany?
have.
Right.
Like, she cries every week because something goes on. It's
They
just like,
formed a
you've been
bond.
there and done that. It's a game. You know people are going to get
They're
eliminated.
a team. They formed a
They're a team,
bond.
man, yeah.
I don't know. It's weird to me.
But so he picks, Big D volunteers, says, sure, I'll do it. So he throws, and then of course now he's like, all right, he's thinking his three picks are going to be either Claire, Alyssa, or Brittany. There's the three people that kind of narrows it down to who he's initially thinking he wants to get rid of. So he throws Claire up on the chopping block with Big D, and then of course all the wheeling and dealing starts, right?
So in his mind, he's like, if a veto's used, he can either then put up Brittany or Alyssa as his target. So he seems like he's got three people to target at this point. He's fine with
All three.
any scenario of a veto being played.
Yeah, and he didn't care too much about Claire going or not, but then Tiffany comes to him and is able to
and
convince
he's
him.
like, oh yeah, I don't want Claire to go. Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Claire doing a good job of advocating for her person, even though I know
yeah.
Derek and Aja do it, but it didn't seem to work with Brittany for some reason.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
So that's how it kind of the nominations play out. But then of course there's this high roller twist.
Mm-hmm.
So the high roller twist is, America has voted to give the players money. Everybody gets at least $50, and then it's the top three votes get 100, and the next top three get 75. And then you can either choose to spend your money that week or bank it to build up a bigger bankroll for the next week. And you have a couple different games to play, spend your money to play. And obviously some of them are more expensive than others, so it would behoove you to bank your money.
Yeah,
Right.
I think you can dethrone the HOH, but that's like $250.
Right. Well, you can, but the risky thing with that, right? First of all, you got to spend $250 to do it, and then you win the event, and then if you win it, then it's still a 50-50 shot. Because you toss a coin, you got to pick heads or tails, right? So if you lose, you just lost $250, and you're out. But at least you get a 50-50 shot of being the new HOH.
It took me a minute to understand how those games worked.
Yeah.
Like I was watching it, and I was like, okay, well, so did Kyland get it? But then I realized, okay, they all get to bet on who.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Kyland was going to be the only one to bet because he.
Well, first they played like a game of shuffleboard for $50 if you wanted to.
That
determined
was
the order.
veto.
Yes.
But then once that power is used, that you win from that game, then that is no longer usable for the rest of the weeks or something. I think that's why they said there were 4 or 5 people that played that game, and they said they wanted to take that power out for the next week. So that's why they played it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can't use it. Like once it's used, you can't use it further on in the week.
No, you can
that
play,
would be
you
kind
can
of
play
silly.
again. Yeah, you can play the game again to win it again. What they're saying is they wanted to take that power out of certain people's hands.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, they wanted to take it out of certain people's hands. There wasn't nothing that said you couldn't play it again next week. They can play it again next week.
There were multiple conversations where they said they took that power out of play for next week. That's one of the reasons Kyland played for it.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll find out next week. But
Yeah.
I didn't hear.
I could be wrong.
I didn't understand it that way.
For 50 BB bucks, if you do well in Veto Derby, you will be able to bet on one of the players competing in the next veto competition. If the house guest you bet on wins, you will earn a second veto.
But and first of all, that's the only game that anybody has enough money to play right now, right? Because you got the $50 game, the $125 game, the $250 game. Well, the most money anybody's gonna have this first week of that is the $100, right? So the only game available right now is the veto game. So you end up having five people play the veto game. You had Kyland, who else? Tiffany, Claire,
Sarah Beth,
and then there was one more.
Derek.
D. Yeah, Big D.
Yeah.
Big D, right? So, and only 4 of them actually ended up getting points because, Tiffany just screwed herself and knocked
everything off. So she.
Yeah, and it's just like shuffleboard. You have a table, you push, I think it was like popcorn, you push it down, and whoever gets it furthest without going off the table gets points.
Yeah, exactly.
And, Tiffany, didn't get any points.
It was a mint julep.
Yeah, it was a mint, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was like, no, it wasn't popcorn. It took me a second to think of what it was.
Yeah, so Tiffany completely screwed herself. She knocked all her mint juleps off the table, so she got 0 points.
But she didn't even get to vote on someone either. Did you notice that?
No, she didn't get any points.
No, because she didn't get any points, which was funny because when it shows at the end when everybody's done their thing, nobody really knows who paid for what or if anyone chose until they see the placings of who placed in this competition.
Yeah, and that determines the order in which you can vote on who's going to win the veto competition.
So Kylan got the most points, so he got to pick first on betting on who would win the competition.
Right, he picked Alyssa.
But so you had Kylan who picked a bet on Alyssa, Claire bet on Kyland, and then Derek bet on Brittany, and Sarah Beth bet on Aja. Yeah. So what I thought was funny or interesting is that nobody knows that Tiffany played that game.
Right, exactly. They don't.
So Tiffany the people could think she has 50, 75, 100 coins. Nobody knows, or dollars or however much it is, but nobody knows that she played it because her name didn't show up as a 0.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. I noticed that too. And then we're kind of getting a little ahead of ourselves here as far as who got picked for the veto game.
We didn't get ahead. I just said it.
Yeah, so.
we didn't move ahead. I just said it.
Yeah, those people got picked for the veto game. All right, so then we move on to the veto game, and what event is it? Of course, everybody's stoked about it. Well, they get a hint, right, of what it's going to be, and everybody's like, oh, and of course Derek's super bummed because he's totally wanting to play that game. Derek Xavier or Derek X.
And as someone who's new to Big Brother, you don't know the iconic value of OTEV, which is what the competition was.
Right, which is veto backwards, evidently.
Yes. Yeah. You did your research. Good job.
Well, no, they actually said it. That was actually that was actually the hint they gave them. They said there's a hint.
They've been playing OTEV for years. So.
Yeah.
Before we place our bets, here's a clue about the upcoming veto competition.
Oh my God! Oh, the one veto I don't get picked.
Yeah.
So, but it was cool to watch though. And I thought it was a pretty cool event. It was definitely.
I like I don't know if it was Arnold Schwarzenegger or sound alike, but whatever it was,
it was pretty
did a good job.
Yeah, it was pretty good Arnold.
I want to get pumped.
Yeah.
Hey, look who showed up, you little land losers. You've never seen the jellyfish as jacked as me. I'm so jacked.
Yeah.
But yeah, so OTEV was like this big pumped. What was he? Jellyfish. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was interesting about this competition is in the past OTEV it hasn't been like that where you bet on who wins. It's like whoever wins and that's it.
Right.
So now you have the twist on it that you've got to bet on who wins and then you get a second veto. So now whoever wins the competition gets a veto, and whoever bet on that person that won, if somebody did, also gets a veto. So now there's 2 vetoes at play. So what's interesting about that is when you see the competition play out, some people are strategically throwing the competition to people that they bet on.
Right, exactly. And it was very, very overt, too.
Yeah.
Especially with Aja.
Oh, yeah. She just walked up right behind Brittany and just dropped the cards like, here you go.
Yeah.
I don't even know why at that point you're pretending.
Yeah,
like,
just like, here, I
just
have it, go play it.
Right, exactly.
So Aja, in her mind, the best bet was because Big D, I think, had already gone out at that point.
It's the golden power veto, so Brittany would be safe, and then she could take off Big D or some scenario like that.
So basically, their whole team would have been safe at that point.
Exactly. Because I think,
and which is not a bad strategy, but you're betting on people that never win anything.
Especially when it's all.
But you're betting on Brittany has to win that.
Right, but also all 3 people, and this just shows you how weak the Jokers really are. All 3 of them made it to this event, and none of them did very well. No. So it's like You can have that team loyalty and love all you want, but if you're
people, I think,
right, but if your whole team, they had half the table there. So if your whole team sucks,
what are you gonna do? It's like being thrown a competition and then
And Big D
not
sure
winning.
wasn't gonna. Big D sure wasn't gonna be taking that
Yeah,
competition.
everybody knew that was going out quick.
Oh yeah,
Like,
right.
that's a tough one for a big guy. And it looked like it hurt when he fell down that last time.
Well, which time?
Yeah, I'm surprised that they put like a
I don't know.
log
Actually,
there
I think I
instead of like
screamed
something with
ouch at that
padding
point.
or something.
Right.
But-
Yeah, that did look uncomfortable. But that wasn't the only like kind of twist and throw, because then there was the very last play,
Kyland.
Oh, yeah,
which
yeah,
was
yeah.
Kyland and Alyssa, which I was at first thinking, why is he doing that? Because I thought the ideal situation would be to send Alyssa home. In my
Right.
mind, that's what I really
Well,
thought
I
was going
kind
to
of
be the
thought
best thing.
earlier on in the show, I thought he was kind of maybe going to go that route.
Right. But then he says that he wanted Alyssa to win, because it came down to Kyland and Alyssa, and he threw it to Alyssa. And his reasoning on that is because he bet on Alyssa.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that she would win, she would get the veto, he would also get the veto, and therefore he basically had control
Right.
over everything the veto would play. Because who bet on
Well,
Kyland?
and Claire, and
Claire
she
bet on
removed
Kyland.
herself.
Yeah.
But he wanted to have the ability to remove Claire, so that
So
way
that he could
she
build
would be in
trust.
debt. But
Right.
she wasn't really
She didn't
seeing
want
that.
that.
She's like, this Joker is throwing it right now. I see what he's
Right,
doing.
right. He
Yeah.
pushed me over the cliff. And you're like, you should have never pushed me over the cliff to begin with.
Yeah.
Right.
Kyland is moving so slowly. I know what Kyland is doing, and it's throwing this competition. I know that Kyland's out of his donkey suit, but he is looking like a real jackass right now.
But it shows there was an extra strategy in going into that game. So therefore now Alyssa has the veto, so she can't be put up as a replacement nominee. You get to the veto ceremony, I think Kyland goes first, and
yeah.
he can choose to take off Big D, or he can take off Claire, which he told Big D he would take him off.
Right.
But then he said, in the diary room, when he said he wanted to get that extra veto, was he wanted to take Claire off to gain her trust. And
Mm-hmm. Because
Right.
Tiffany was talking Claire up to him and talked him into it.
so therefore, his really only replacement nominee out of all of his three choices was Brittany.
Yeah, exactly.
So Brittany sees the block.
And
We
of
all
course-
know what that does.
And of course, we get the whole waterworks and the crying and why me again? Why they hate me? They hate me.
And it's funny because as they're debating that, Kyland tells Sarah Beth, like, hey, can you drop this kind of on her? And she's like, yeah, I'll do that for you.
Right,
Yeah.
you got it. No problem.
And then she's like, can I sit next to you? And she's like, Kyland's thinking about putting you up. And she's like, what? And
Now,
then she like goes on
But
like a
Sarah
search
Beth
of the
has her
house
own
for
reasoning for doing that. She's like, she was more than happy to do that because she thought that would gain favor with Brittany, knowing
Yeah,
that
she
she's
didn't
going to
do
go
it
to
too well,
Right,
though. She's
no.
just like,
Yeah.
hey, and then
Knowing that Brittany's going to the jury
going
house.
to the jury. It's like, hey, I gave you the heads up. She said you might want to go talk to him. In
Right.
other words, like, hey, I'm giving you the chance to go plead your case, and maybe you can.
they
prevent
probably
this.
should have
Exactly.
talked strategy at first and then slowly hinted it, but it just didn't come
Right,
off
right.
as like
well,
a game
well,
move.
well, the
really.
thing is now, the funny thing is, so Kyland kind of threw Sarah Beth a bone by having her do that
Yeah.
for Brittany, but he really screwed himself on that, right? Because earlier, he had already told Brittany, and we didn't get to talk about that, he had already told Brittany flat out, he made a deal with her. She said, hey, if you don't put me up this week, I won't put you up for the next 2 weeks if I get head of household. He said, okay, deal. So he made a deal with Brittany saying, sure,
But that deal doesn't mean anything because Brittany was never going to win HOH,
right.
and Brittany's going out this week, so it didn't matter. That's how I see that.
Yeah, well, yeah, but the bottom line is, but Brittany saw it as him betraying her and lying to her. So of course,
That's going to affect her
Well,
jury
her
vote.
jury vote, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
Oh yeah, she'll never vote for Kyland. If he makes the final two, he ain't getting her vote.
Or maybe she sees that as a good strategy. I don't know.
See, what is a good strategy? She's out.
The lying. He lied to me. That eliminated me. That was cool. That was good that you did that.
Well, not in that,
cool.
not in that,
No,
not in
that
that
was
interview with Jilly Chan. It wasn't cool. She said, "Gosh," she flat out called him out. He's a liar in the interview. So no, that ain't how she thought of it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's not how she thought, but maybe that's how Kyland thought she'd take it. And I don't think he was really thinking too far ahead with that, though.
No, I don't think it was either.
I love the diary room with Brittany, who's like very into, like, she's very enthusiastic and emphatic that she's going to win. She's going to turn this thing around. She's going to win the vetoes.
She's
She's going
time.
to win this every single time. And then she, she did do
Yeah,
that
she did
one
it
veto,
last week.
man.
Yeah,
she
she
beast
had-
moded that.
I would
Yeah.
say this to Kyland's effect. If he eliminates more people and it's between him and Tiffany, Kyland's going to say, I eliminated half the house. What did you ever do?
Right, exactly.
You just coasted on my coattails this entire time.
Right.
She was
And
in
then people will be
everybody's
like,
ear.
yeah, okay, that's probably true.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But then people might be like, yeah, but look how smart she was for coasting on your coattails and putting all this crap in your head and making you make those decisions.
Like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and that's the thing. It's a matter of how you plead your case at the end.
Exactly.
Because, I mean, in all honesty, she pled her case for Claire, and that changed his mind about Claire. And she could bring that up and say, hey, you were gunning for my girl Claire, and I talked you out of that.
I mean, Tiffany's interesting because she's
a
a position in power without having the power.
Right.
Where Derek F. and Aja don't do that and have that ability.
Right. No, they're not manipulative like she is. Yeah, they just don't have that capability.
Yeah. You're playing too nice, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, Derek and Aja, I think, just from being on the Jokers and that team, you know, from the beginning when Frenchie was, you know, everybody was anti-Frenchie, and that brought that team down. Mm-hmm. And they kind of, because they still tried to support him. And then Brittany being the perpetual pawn, it just, that team never really stood a chance. And none of them are very competitive in any way.
It's like they're on a sinking ship, and instead of like worrying about firing torpedoes, they're worried about plugging the holes to prevent themselves from sinking.
Yeah, they're not trying. And what's funny is, like, it was like, what, 2 weeks ago that they eliminated the teams, but they still play like they're on the team, like the Jokers do at least. Oh yeah. You know, and that's, I don't know. There's some kind of bond between Aja, Brittany, and Big D, and I think that's going to fracture in the Cookout at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no.
Yeah, well, once one of those two get eliminated, the other one's going to go nuclear.
Yeah. All right, so.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. So let's say you eliminate, and whether they get the Cookout to the final 6, or, you know, one goes before, one of the first of the Cookouts is going to be Aja or Big D. Yeah. So how does that play out when Big D goes and Aja's left?
Well, but the thing is,
she's not been friendly with anybody.
No,
in the
Cookout. Well, a lot of people were bringing up good points in there of why they should send Big D home. Like the non-Cookout people, they're like, why don't we send Big D home? Because everybody's like, yeah, I'd love to be final 2 with Big D because he's not going to beat me in anything. So sure.
That's why I'm surprised people aren't considering Xavier, because he's good at games.
Yeah. And he's staying low key, man. He's good at manipulating too. You know, he's playing his game very well.
He's probably got the strongest chance of winning right now.
Yeah, no, I'd agree.
I think there's in the back of the mind between Xavier, Derek X, and
Kyland?
Yeah, that they're all kind of gunning for each other on some way. Like they're all each other's shield, but all each other's competition.
Right.
I think they feel like they're the ones.
Yeah, I think Xavier and Kyland at some point, there needs to be like a switch flip that's like, all right, this guy's a big threat to me.
Right, exactly. And at some point, I think there will be. But right now, I mean, you got, well, and it looked like, you know, and thank goodness for Claire, because Derek, you know, Derek X was still oblivious to all this crap, right? And Claire's finally trying to talk some sense to him, like, look, these two dudes, because, you know, Kyland and Xavier pulled Derek X aside and tried to get him to throw the competition.
Right now, Derek X is the biggest kind of known threat in the house, not only to my personal game, but also to the Cookout as a whole. It's imperative that Kyland and I get Derek X feeling comfortable enough to throw this next HOH competition.
Yeah.
Hey, don't worry, man, because all 3 of us together, right? We got to stick together. We're bros here. You know, and then Claire was like talking to Derek X. He's like, I think what that means is they're going to backdoor you.
Whenever they tell you to throw a competition, that's not a good thing.
And Derek X is like, oh, crap, you're probably right.
Yeah. And then they start doing the numbers, and I think they're now just starting to realize there's no white men left.
Right.
And that's, you know... Wait, in Big Brother history, there's not a white man in jury.
I don't think they've looked at the other side to go, there's no white men, but what group hasn't been eliminated?
Right.
Like, you know, I don't think that part has.
That hasn't, no.
Right, exactly.
But they're starting to see it, which, I mean, you're going to at some point, right? I mean,
it's too late probably for these guys.
Well, the funny thing for Derek too is he probably feels like because he's, you know, what you consider in a minority group as well, you know, because he's Asian. Yeah. He probably feels like, you know, they're all gonna have his back too, because, you know, he's all part of this bigger minority group of these guys. When in reality, no, they don't care about him. It's all about the Cookout, you know. So
well, they're oblivious. Like, I was waiting for Julie to tell like Brittany. No, it's like, no, let me tell you this, but since she's going to jury,
she couldn't tell her. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was crazy, man. So then, all right, so, you know, Brittany gets voted out. Well, but the interesting thing on that, right? She did get the one sympathy vote.
She got,
you know,
and that's the thing is,
you gotta be careful with those sympathy votes. So you better know what's going down, though. You know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think they all knew, but yeah, Aja threw that sympathy vote, and part of me wonders if that's not just the sympathy vote she was always going to cast for Brittany,
right?
To keep Brittany, she voted Big D out, and I wonder if it's a little bit of a message to the Cookout, like, I'm willing to vote against one of us.
No, I don't know about that. Because
I
it's Derek
think
F
it's a
at the end of the
secret.
day at the same time.
I think it's a secret message. I do.
I don't know.
You're the only person that got the message.
Maybe so.
Right.
I do, or it might be a message. It might be something in herself that she's trying to prove. I really think when it comes down to it, she'll vote against a Cookout member. I do think.
Oh, I think
Well,
she would.
she would, yeah.
Especially if it's Tiffany
I don't
or
think
something
Tiffany.
like that.
I don't think Tiffany ever will.
Xavier, she's probably still.
I don't think Xavier ever will.
Oh, but
either.
Big D and Aja would both vote against Tiffany at this point, I think.
Yeah, I think they could be convinced if something happened.
Right, which brings us to the next point of, all right, time to pick the new head of household and to see how this is all going to play out next week, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we have the competition, and this is the one... what was it
Bouncing
called?
beam. I don't know what
yeah,
it's
it
called.
was bouncing beam competition, but basically, they have the different sets of bouncing beams, and whoever made it across the quickest is the winner. And, of course, the thinner balancing beams are the quicker route, but you're a lot easier to fall off of as well.
This competition is called Dash to Dinner, and here's how it works. One at a time, you will step up and attempt to navigate the balance beam course on your way to grab a seat at dinner. The balance beams you'll be choosing from are different sizes. Some are wider than others, so your choice of path is crucial to making it to your buzzer without falling off.
So
also another competition. Big D's not.
Yeah, who
gonna do
started
well.
that? Who started that off and set kind of
Claire. Yeah, Claire started off, set the original pace.
It was kind of slow. You kind of felt like that one's going to be beat. And Alyssa was like smoking through it. And then she stepped on the floor as she was like pushing the button.
to the end. The very last.
And I think her time was like 25 or something.
Yeah. Well, Claire's was 34. Yeah, Claire's time was 34.
No, I'm saying Alyssa would have got it.
Yeah.
But then Sarah Beth gets up there and she
Just
kills
zooms,
it. I
man.
think got like
2103.
Yeah, I was like, geez, that's gonna be hard to beat.
Yeah, and then of course nobody did. You know, I mean, she just smoked it right there. I mean, you had a couple people that came close.
Yeah, if you fell off once, you could restart, but you're not gonna beat
you're
that
toast,
time.
Yeah. No, but Sarah Beth, I mean, she gamed it, man. I mean, she freaking there was one event for her, man. That was it because she just cruised across that thing. I was like, man.
So now you got Sarah Beth as HOH. So guess who's safe?
Right, exactly. Kyland's going to be safe.
Well, that's fine, but I'm hoping other members of the Cookout get considered.
And that's where we get right here, right? So if she can somehow finagle it where there's two members of the finagle it. If she can get it to where there's two members of the Cookout after the veto, that there's still two members of the Cookout on that, up on the chopping block, that's when it's going to start getting the divisive amongst the Cookout, right? Like, all right, which one of these, who do we need to keep?
Yeah, and I guarantee you, if she nominated two Cookout, one is going to throw the Cookout under the bus if they feel like they're backed into a corner.
Mm-hmm. So
and then that whole thing could unravel.
Fall apart, yep.
So the question is, how much does she let Kyland get in her ear on that? Because Kyland's going to be in her ear. Because she's going to go to Kyland and say, okay, this is what I'm thinking. And as soon as she mentions a Cookout name, he's going to be like, all right, let me try to
he's going to be like, how about Claire? She's like, Claire, why would I nominate Claire?
Right. Well, but then he's also going to say, fine, he'll be fine with her putting one Cookout person up because Cookout's got the votes. Yeah, but if she tries to put two, he's going to definitely try to stray her away from that, right? So, but
I wonder if she'll be smart just to probe that. Like, let me see what happens when I even suggest something like this.
Well, also with the fact you've got Claire and Derek X questioning, there's no white people or white men left.
Why do they team up with Sarah Beth?
Well, they need to, right? So that's the next thing needs to happen.
Maybe they have a conversation with Sarah Beth and be like, hey, do you think that maybe all of them are working together and maybe we need to put two of them up?
And she is suspected
what's the common denominator on this board up here? Right, exactly.
This is their
chance.
Did.
She was the first person to suspect it. You're right. She was the very first person to suspect.
But she's like, I can't do anything right now. But there's something weird going on with Xavier and all this protection that's going on.
Yeah, exactly. Nah, man. So.
But the Cookout's done really well of having each other's back without being friends. Without being friends. Because you think about it, like everyone can see that Aja and Derek, Big D are like on the out of the Cookout. So it's like, okay, well, you can tell that Big D and Tiffany don't get along.
Right.
So no one's going to suspect that they're actually working together.
All right. So honestly, the best thing that could happen right now at this point to cause a big breakup or a big, at least some kind of
Cookout controversy.
Yes, Cookout controversy. Is really they just need Xavier and Tiffany to go on a chopping block. That really is what needs to be happening right here. Because then you got the two top dogs in the Cookout on the chopping block. And then you got the rest of the Cookout that has to decide, all right, which one of these two are we going to keep? And,
but it's not going to happen. What is the likely thing to happen, you think?
One of the Cookout members and then one non-Cookout member is probably the likely thing that's going to happen.
I don't know.
Who do
I
you
don't know
think,
where
who do you think Sarah Beth will put up? Probably Hannah, right? We talked about Hannah.
Yeah, so that's a Cookout member. I don't know who her second. I don't
Alyssa.
know.
He's probably going to talk her into putting Alyssa up, would be my guess.
You know, Hannah's kind of like a quiet Cookout member, and she wasn't a part of the Royal Flush, so she's probably not very high.
I'm going with Hannah and Alyssa. I'm betting that Kyland is going to try to get her to put Alyssa up. That is who I'm thinking.
Could be right.
Yep. I'm thinking Hannah and Alyssa are going up there on that chopping block. Now, what's going to happen if one of them wins veto and gets himself off? Then that's going to definitely throw some stuff
little
out, right?
casino room and do a little
But
weird thing.
then again, whoever gets picked to play the veto, you still have the majority of the house are Cookout members.
Right, exactly.
So, if a Cookout member wins it, then
that's all she wrote.
Yeah.
We're running out of other people.
Yeah, real quick.
Yep. But it's going to be interesting.
Hannah and Alyssa. That's my 2 picks for the chopping block this next week.
All right.
All right. Do you concur?
Yeah. What do y'all think?
I know Hannah's going. Hannah, but I don't know. I really have no idea who she'd go with the second. And it depends on.
I really hope it's like
how
her
much
and
she listens to
Xavier.
Kyland. It depends on how much she listens to Kyland.
Because Xavier was the one campaigning last time where she kind of like got the inkling something was up. So maybe
you're right.
We'll get on to Xavier. I don't know.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. But you know that Kyland. Well, that's a thing too.
Kyland should realize too. Just go ahead with it.
Go ahead with it. Right, because Xavier
I tried to talk her out of it, but
I couldn't convince her.
Women,
Sorry.
Kyland is really his biggest threat as far as anybody with actually any physical ability, right? So aside from Derek as well, but. I mean, yeah. So that might actually be a bad idea for Kyland to actually
they'll
have her
probably
put
try
Xavier
and
up.
throw Derek out there, but I don't think she'll buy that.
Yeah, I don't think she will either. I don't think she's gonna want to put Derek up because Derek does nothing to hurt her game at this point.
I wonder if they'll try and threaten her and be like, "All right, well, you're making a big move. I'm letting
how-
you know
how
next
much of
week
her-
you're going to be vulnerable."
How much
If
of
you do
her
that.
HOH is she willing to use to protect Kyland's game as well? Because he'll be in her ear for various reasons, but she'll also want to make sure he's, if he says, "Hey, this person's coming after me," or,
he can
this
play
is
that.
going to be the best for my
I
game.
tell
So,
you
hey,
what,
you put
though.
up this person who's the best for your game. Maybe you should put up this one.
This
that's
is the
my
week for
game.
Kyland to spill the beans to Sarah Beth and kind of
I think
like,
so.
let's throw.
I don't know that he will.
I don't think
it would
he
be a
will.
good idea.
But he should consider that.
He should totally.
He should at least be thinking that strategy through.
Oh yeah.
Now the question is, let's just play it out because this would be fun. If he does she keep it to herself and use that to the advantage, or does she spill the beans and then the whole house goes crazy?
I don't think she would.
And that's why you're like, okay, do you?
They got a final 2. So.
No, at that point she I think would go. She wouldn't talk to any other Cookout members about it. But I think she definitely talked to Claire and Xavier about it at that
and then
point.
they could talk.
Well,
once it's out, more than one
have to make
person,
it clear,
yeah.
and I'd be like, if you are going to throw that out there because you're back to the score, don't say it came from me.
Right. Exactly.
Don't say. But they probably know though because they're so close. But I'd be like,
so it's a risk. It's a risk. How much does he trust her?
Right. Exactly.
Would he be willing to put that out there?
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. But all right, guys. So who? On the last week we talked about who we still want to see win. Who y'all want to see now?
I like Kyland. I keep changing. I still like Tiffany for the way she's playing, but she's not gonna make it.
I think this has been a pretty boring season with the Cookout, just steamrolling over everybody.
Yeah.
But
I don't know that I would say it's boring. It's been interesting that they've been able to do it. I
Well,
just find it very
nobody's
odd.
caught on enough yet. Yeah, absolutely. I agree
Yeah,
with
and
that.
I just find it very odd that they're willing to throw away their own individual game just for that purpose.
Well, but
it's working somewhat though.
Right.
Oh, it's working.
It is,
It's
exactly.
working. Their purpose was to get the Cookout to the jury and a black person to win the game, and it's definitely
And it's
looking
very
like
likely
that's
gonna
working.
happen. Yeah.
But is it more important to them that a black person wins the game, or is it more important that they win the game? Because at this point in time,
both
they
of
are
that
not
mattered.
Both of them
them,
matters to them. Yeah, both of it
yeah,
matters.
I
to
think
them.
they would prefer to be number 1 and have that happen. But
Right.
I think if they lose, they're like, well, at least this happened.
Yeah, I don't know that any of them within it are thinking of their game. They're thinking of the Cookout.
I think Tiffany's
There's
always
still-
thinking
Tiffany's
of her game.
always thinking about
I
her
think
game.
Xavier,
Absolutely.
push come to
He is
shove,
definitely thinking about his game,
because
too.
he's
Oh,
staying
yeah.
pretty focused and he's playing smart. If you
Those
ask me.
two are
So
definitely thinking about
I think
their
the
own
people
game.
on the top are thinking that. When you're on the
Exactly.
bottom, the reason why you're on the bottom is because you're not thinking about
it.
it.
Exactly. Yeah, no, me, I'm still going for Derek X, man. Like, that kid is he stayed in again this week, and I think he's finally starting to catch on, and I hope he does. I hope that kid catches on and starts doing some damage to the Cookout, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't really have a favorite anymore, but I'm thinking Kyland or Xavier's going to win this thing.
No,
I would
yeah.
like to see Derek X do something. Heck, I'd like to see Sarah Beth do something.
Right.
You know, someone do something to shake things up, but I don't know if they're going to do it.
Well,
But-
Sarah Beth seems smart. Seems like she was kind of onto things early on. It would behoove her to.
I tell
to
you,
do
Claire
something.
looks like she's willing, but you got to win.
Right, yeah, exactly. You got to win. So, but yeah, all right, well, everybody, that is our take on this week's episode of Big Brother. We hope you enjoyed it. Ashley, as always, thank you for coming back and hanging out with us. Josh, you got anything you want to say to everybody, man?
You got anything?
See you guys.
All right, check you guys later.
Oh my God, that ran over my toe. It ran over my toe.
Oh, yeah, it sucks.
Are you ready? Jeez, we're trying to avoid this.
Well, will this go to sleep?
Yeah, it'll go to sleep.
Well, that'll be a problem.
Of course it'll go to sleep.
Can I go to sleep?
You got this.
Because we kind of go all over.
No, we don't. You see, I always take notes. And we don't always go all over.
We do.
All right, guys,
Hold on,
welcome
man.
to another week
there's-
of
This guy-
Big Brother.
This guy right here is about to
What's he doing?
start scratching or something.
About to take a number 2.
Does he scratch at the door to get out?
He takes a number
will,
2
yeah.
sometimes, and he makes us all get
He
out.
doesn't take a number 2. Yeah, because you like we're all looking around and talking, and then you're like, "Okay, guys."
All right, let's do it. Everybody faces forward.
Yeah.
That's right, everybody. Another exciting week. And back us of Madison-mus is Minnesmith.
What?
You wearing the same clothes for this? That's nasty.
I don't. I mean, I've washed it. I've washed it.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah,
Ashley don't do crap anymore.
that's true.
Josh can do the little zoom thing.
It's true. I used to be the editor. Then I got
Ashley
sick.
doesn't do nothing.
Then I got fired.
I'm so jacked!